Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things Usmnt y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again, my co-host Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's good, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Just coming back from my pickup match on Sundays. Now that it's summer, trying to catch up. It is brutal out there, dude. Don't play after 9 a.m. because you're just gonna get sunburned.
How'd you guys do?
Well, I mean, we weren't playing necessarily for a like it was just like a fun match, right? It wasn't necessarily like
Gotcha.
we just random dudes showed up and we played. The team that I was on, we lost both matches, so yeah.
Well, man, somebody else that lost two matches was Usmnt in
Here
Copa
we go.
América, and that has, we purpose of this video kind of give a summary of what's been going on in the Usmnt circle this past week and what we can expect here in the next coming week, Monday, July 8th. But Adrian, as you know, obviously Gregg Berhalter has come under fire. The U.S. soccer, the organization as a whole has come under a lot of criticism here in the last couple of days since that loss and elimination in Copa América. Many of the big, social media influencers, social media channels, YouTube channels, etc., that follow and cover U.S. soccer have kind of led this protest on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, to kind of make the voices heard of the fans, right? To make sure U.S. soccer is listening, understands, and knows that the fans aren't happy. The fans want changes, significant changes ahead of the 2026 World Cup. That what we saw in Copa América was a complete disaster. It can no longer happen, and that pretty much the U.S. soccer team has stagnated under Gregg Berhalter this past couple of years. I don't know how you feel, but when Gregg Berhalter took over as coach back 6 years ago, he was basically coaching nothing but high school kids. I mean, all those guys were very young, under 20 years old, right? I think he did well with what he had in his first tenure. He did decent, got them out the group at the World Cup. But after that, these guys are in their prime now. They're not kids anymore. They need somebody that can come in, put discipline, put order, and put tactics that can actually win games against bigger and better teams. And Gregg Berhalter is not the guy to do that at this time. And yeah, man, I mean, we've seen it in results. I mean, losing twice in 1 year at Panama, one being that important match in Copa America, and just completely stagnating, never getting a signature win against big teams. I guess before we kind of go into what's been happening in the U.S. soccer sphere, man, I mean, give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think when we started the podcast, right, I was always on the side of, I think the USMNT fan base complains a lot about Triple G. And my biggest comparison or contrast point was Mexico, right? And Mexico having all these coaches, specifically Tata Mezquino, just not necessarily being what we needed, and just comparing them to where Mexico is at this point in time versus the USMNT, very bright and open-ended future. So at first I was like, well, I don't really know much about Triple G to complain about him. But all I know is that he took a bunch of players who were essentially doing a generational change, and maybe they found in him a common ground where they were able to grow and continue progressing in their careers, and they found like a confidant and maybe like a mentor, or someone who was willing to open his arms and just welcome him, right? Hey, I'm gonna make you feel comfortable. You are the future of this team. Just like a lot of like motivational stuff, very as I said, like very mentor like, advisor like when you go to college, student, you have all these advisors, right, that help you guide your career and whatnot. As we keep on doing this podcast, and you keep on telling me about the USMNT, and we go back and forth, and I look at other content creators and other people around the USMNT sphere, I start to realize that yes, this is Triple G was good for this generational change and to be that bridge between the old guard and this new guard. But as of today, is he what this team needs to get into the next stage, to get into the next level? Is he or his tactics the I guess the point in the point of view, or the specific merger where all these players are going to rally behind and push themselves to be better? What I saw in Copa America, what I've seen over the last couple of years, has been a very complacent, very comfort zone level players with the USMNT. Christian Pulisic pretty much owning all the set pieces when we know that's not his expertise. Tyler Adams making freaking tantrums when he's not playing. Mckennie doing whatever he wants after a big loss. So to me, this just goes to say that the group of players that own, and I put air quotes, own the USMNT are behind Triple G because they are so much comfortable with him that they just want to keep the status quo. So yes, I think it's time for Triple G to find a greener pasture, dude. Maybe go back to coaching high school kids because he seems to be it seems to be his sweet spot. But yeah, I think as of today, Copa America was a great example that he's just at this moment in time in over his head.
Yeah, and if they don't make a change soon, it's going to be a very wasteful 2026 World Cup. The biggest event in U.S. soccer history, hosting that, being able to grow the sport, being able to grow the U.S. name in on the soccer, plateau in the soccer world, and to have performances like that, which don't inspire, don't show confidence, and just show that the team has stagnated, would be horrible for the sport here in the United States. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I agree with everybody that's been, kind of rallying behind the Berhalter out hashtag there on Twitter and everything. It's time for him to go. I think we've said it for a while now that we've been on that train of Berhalter out for a while now. Especially after he was rehired I think unrightfully so, undeservingly so. Yeah, I mean, like we said, final decision is going to be made Monday on U.S. Soccer. They're going to have a meeting July 8th, and with an announcement. Fox Soccer dropped the news late last week that there's going to be an official announcement made by U.S. Soccer on Wednesday, July 10th, where I guess they will be releasing information on whether he's fired or not. I don't know why you would make a huge announcement for an announcement if you weren't going to come out and say that
Yeah,
he's been
right.
let go. But it's U.S. soccer. Stranger things have happened. Knowing them, they could pull a Manchester United and say he's staying for 2 more years, like they did with Eric. What's his name?
Ten
Ten
Hag,
Hag.
Ten
Yeah.
Hag, yeah.
Imagine doing that, right?
Let,
Wednesday they
let,
just come out and post he stayed.
let's also not forget that he got his job because his brother was very, close to Ernie Stewart and all that clan, right? And so it's a it just also goes to show how little the USSF knows about what they're doing with US soccer in general, right? I'm not going to put the whole blame on Triple G, uh, on not being the best coach for the team. I think also the USSF has to do a better job when finding, if we're going to get a replacement, finding a better replacement for them.
Right, and yeah, Triple G just accepted it. I mean, it really lies on U.S. Soccer as the fault
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
When they did that faux interview, like 8 month or 12 month interviews, where they interviewed Jesse Marsh and pretty much just backstabbed him at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all falls on Triple G and just Triple G on U.S. Soccer and it being more of a business than anything for those guys.
Hmm.
Um, but there's the supporters group have come out, American Outlaws, Barra 76, all these big supporters groups to criticize
Hmm.
Triple G, which I think has helped and put pressure on. Matt Crocker, the sporting director, has received so many. He's not on social media, but he's received so many direct emails from supporters and fans, voicing their outrage that he went and deleted his LinkedIn. Yeah, it just gotten to that point that
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I mean, even people that have sources to inside U.S. soccer, it's been said that no decision has been made yet, but to keep up the support of keep voicing your frustration on this Triple G situation because it's definitely getting through to U.S. soccer, and there's still even people in U.S. soccer that are backing Triple G and trying to keep him, but like we said, that's all got to be decided tomorrow, Monday, July 8th. But let's go through kind of a potential list of maybe some replacements here. I know Fox Soccer released a list that kind of had some, very out there options and then some more realistic options. I think if U.S. Soccer wants to take that hump, wants to finally get that signature win, aspire to be something, do something at the World Cup 2026, they're gonna have to look past MLS for this one. It's time to get out of their comfort zone. It's time to get the players, like you said, out of their comfort zone and to really try to reach for the stars on this, throw a Hail Mary and see what can happen, man. But potential list here, I think the most obvious candidate right now and the one that has been dropped in sources saying that U.S. soccer fans need to get used to his name here going forward. Steve Cherundolo, the LAFC coach, is probably the most likely to take over U.S. soccer. What do you think of this move, man? I mean, he's won more than Triple G in MLS.
I know. I agree. He's definitely a better coach in all regards than Triple G. I think this will be an easy but maybe effective decision by the USSF. It keeps it realistic in the sense that this is a within reach coach that you can probably poach from MLS, and we know that MLS and USSF are very friends, super friends, even the best friends, if you ask me. But I wouldn't see why LAFC would say, hey, hell no, I'm not going to give you my coach. I think it makes sense because he was a USMNT player, so he knows the environment. I think he has proven to excel when having a good talented pool of players. So if you look at LAFC, of course, they've been a dominant force even with him at the helm. I don't say it in the sense that he's a bad coach or anything like that. I'm just saying that he's able to utilize the best aspect of each player to the benefit of the team. So I think it makes sense. He's a very young coach, 45 years of age, and he has sort of like a proven record behind him, right? And I say sort of because after LAFC, he was in Las Vegas, which is a USL
before
team
LAFC.
for exactly before LAFC. Sorry, he was in Las Vegas for like a year, 32 matches with points per match of 0.66. So not necessarily an impressive resume, but when you look at the LAFC one, he has 116 matches. So it's a good bag of games under his belt. I think the pool of players will respect him as a previous big name or staple name for the USMNT. And he would also, I think, he will be able to rally them behind him, in the sense that he's been in that seat before. He's been part of one of those, I guess, if you want to call it generational changes, but a tidal wave of change where the USMNT went from just being a competing team to a, you know, not a force to be reckoned with, but a team that deserves recognition not only in Concacaf but also outside of it.
Yeah, no, and he's definitely one of those players that we know in his playing days was an outlier for U.S. soccer. Spent his whole career over there in Bundesliga with Hanover, captain Hanover. Was a staple for U.S. soccer for good 10 years there. He played at the 2006 World Cup, the 2010 World Cup, and definitely a good player. But not the exciting option that players that fans are wanting. It's for a lot of fans. This is another MLS pick and another just a status quo, horizontal higher, not really shooting up for somebody better. I think if fans were to settle on an MLS coach, they'd probably prefer Wilfred Nance, the Columbus coach. That we saw. He's done great things there in Columbus with the small market owners that don't spend too much compared to other MLS teams, and he's done wonders with that team. So probably the best coach in MLS, Wilfred Nance, and maybe one that's not necessarily high odds to take this job. A couple other names have been dropped that are really not high odds, and the biggest one that we've been seeing around. He in an interview he mentioned that he'd only coached two national teams, one being Germany, the other maybe USA. Somebody that's kind of on a coaching hiatus, but can maybe be tempted back, due to the hosting World Cup. But the big thing holding the U.S. soccer back on this one is, and they've said they would reach out to him, Jurgen Klopp. Money's the big thing holding it back, as we know. What the U.S. women's soccer coach makes pretty much has to be equal to what the U.S. men's national team soccer coach makes. So
Yep.
Jurgen Klopp, the most exciting of the name of the list, probably the most unrealistic, would be the craziest acquisition of U.S. soccer does get him. And I
Yeah.
think would rally the fan bases together again, get them excited again, and would leave no excuses for the players at this point, though, right? I mean, if they fail to get any results, we know it's not the coach at that point, because Jurgen Klopp is a proven winner at the highest level with Liverpool, with Borussia Dortmund. So yeah, I mean, Jurgen Klopp, I think the fan favorite for everybody, but the most unrealistic option.
It is an unrealistic one, and it makes sense that people want it, because if you look at the style that he likes to play with, and given the short time that he has to adapt that game style into the players, you can say that most of these players have, even though was it Gregg Berhalter? No, I don't think it was. No, I'm confusing the coach. It wasn't him. It was Gareth Southgate. My bad. But no, if you look at the pool of players that the USMNT has, all of them are very dynamic. All of them they don't like to be static. They like to play quick. They like to play, that fastball, play in transition like they used to before Triple G was in charge. And so it makes sense that everyone gets rallied behind Klopp, right? And it's also a big name. It will be a huge move by the USMNT. I think will be the biggest coach ever to coach in CONCACAF, right? Even bigger than Tata Martino, even bigger than Jurgen Klinsmann, because I think
Sven-Goran Eriksson.
Yeah, exactly. Like he will be the biggest signing of a coach for CONCACAF. Is it unrealistic? Yes. And the only reason why it's unrealistic is because we all know that he made what, 60 million pounds a year with Liverpool. So it isn't a matter of the USSF not having the money. It is just a matter of, do they really want to have a tab of up to, I don't know, let's say 20 million on coach fees, right? and understanding that, for example, they're going to get some good money from Copa America because they're going to get some money, and they're probably going to get some money from the 2026 World Cup. So again, it isn't a matter of money; it is a matter of will 2 years at the USMNT helm entice club, and is the USSF willing to release the funds for it?
I mean, U.S. Soccer made $45 million last year. So after expenses and everything was said and done, so do they have the money? They have the money, but
Yeah.
it definitely would be a tight, I guess, on their finances. That if they, like you said, if they have to pay 10 million to Klopp, let's say he settles for 10 million, and they have to pay 10 million for Emma Hayes, 20 million out of the 45 million already. It's like that's a
Yes,
good chunk of your
exactly.
revenue just on coaching,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, a couple other names that were dropped that kind of are also in between realistic and unrealistic, kind of between the Cherundolo end, that's like the most realistic, and the club that's the most unrealistic. We've seen Hugo Perez, the American player that had coached El Salvador in the
As
past.
well. Yeah.
David Wagner, Thierry Henry, who's coaching the MLS.
He's not good, man.
Yeah,
I think he's currently coaching the French Olympic team, right?
and he was assistant to Roberto Martinez at Belgium for a
Yeah.
while. Patrick Vieira, Jim Curtin, the Philadelphia Union coach, who's
Hmm.
Philadelphia Union is doing very poor right now, but he's been pretty good coach for Philadelphia Union the past
Yeah.
five or so years.
And he
Um,
said in the past that he will drop anything to coach the USMNT.
but again,
So
I think that would be another not exciting move for fans at this time right now.
yeah, I agree.
The one that I think is the most realistic that could excite fans is an international coach, has won things at the international, at the international level, is Hervé Renard, the old Saudi Arabia coach
Yeah.
for the World Cup, who's currently
Hmm.
coaching the women's France team that his contract ends this summer. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that lines up perfectly for the U.S. soccer. His contract ends at the end of the Olympics.
Hmm.
U.S. soccer, is probably going to take some time to interview and whatnot and hire. The timeline's just that up. He's, I think he made less than Triple G made at that World Cup
Hmm.
for Saudi Arabia, so he's not that huge earner that Jurgen Klopp is, but he's proven to be able to take away wins. Right, he had that signature win against Argentina with that Saudi Arabia team. He's a proven coach and just somebody that I think will take that leap from friends. Let's be friends. I'm your coach. I'm your friend. To we're here to win, get results, be serious, and to get that signature win for the U.S. Soccer. The one thing about him that's a negative is he hardly stays with teams for longer than a year. So
Yeah.
that's kind of would be a long tenure for him for 2 years here with the at the helm of U.S. Soccer.
Yeah,
But I know
and
you're
I
a
know
fan of
that.
him.
I mean, I like him. I think he was. I always. I mean, if it wasn't that Saudi Arabia locker room after the first half against Argentina, he was yelling at my ass. Dude, I will be fired up too. I don't know if you've seen that video, but he was like that. That goes to show you that he's not going to play around. He's going to call you out when he needs to call you out. The other thing that I like about him, right, is no matter which CONCACAF team is that is hosting the World Cup in 2026, whether you want Canada, the USMNT, or El Tri, all of them are going to be underdogs because they'll always be underdogs until they prove themselves differently. And he has proven to take an underdog team on a big stage and make it successful. If you look at Zambia, I think back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, or before that, he took them all the way to the final of the African Cup of Nations, and he won it. He won it with Ivory Coast as well, even though that we know Ivory Coast is a strong team in Africa. He also did a decent tournament with Morocco. Nonetheless, on 2018, he kind of sort of crashed on that World Cup. But I'm not going to excuse him, but he was in a very tough team, group with Portugal and Spain on it. Nonetheless, I like the fact that when that World Cup was over, he was honest enough with himself to say, "This was my fault. I am out." And so, yeah, I see the concern of not lasting more than a year with the teams, but I think that makes sense. I don't think you want a coach right now to be your next project, right? I think you want a coach right now who's going to get you over that little bump on 2026 and make your team more exciting, right? Because if the USSF, sorry, not USSF, if the USMNT makes it to the quarterfinals or maybe the semifinal, you can say that gets the job done, right? Because winning the championship will be not impossible, but it isn't necessarily the odds aren't on the USMNT
Right, right,
favor.
right.
Uh-huh. So you just need someone who's gonna light a fire under these team's ass and get him to work. So I think he will be a good option.
Yeah, and I don't think U.S. soccer fans are expecting to get the final and win. I think what they're expecting is just to perform better, do what they did better, do more than what they did 4 years ago, not
Yeah.
stagnate. Definitely expectations to get out the group. expectations are to get past another game. Obviously, I'm not going to say get past the round of 16 because we know the format's changing, right? It's changing to 48 teams. So get out that game and maybe get another game. Get to the quarterfinals or something, right? It's what the U.S. soccer fans are
The
expecting.
best
Maybe,
eight.
like you said,
Yeah.
semifinal as well, maybe at home. But definitely need somebody that could light that fire, like you said. Before we take off, another name that was mentioned here that's been kind of ignored by a couple of pundits here, Pellegrino Matarazzo, the U.S. Coach currently coaching Hoffenheim. Doing a good job out there in Hoffenheim. As we know, he spent his whole career out there in Europe as a player. But he could be another option. Will he leave Hoffenheim at this time? He's only been with them since 2023. I don't know. To coach, national team football. We know national team football is way different than, club football, especially as he's trying to establish himself as a coach out there with a good
Yeah, and
team.
he's playing Europa League, I think,
Yep.
next year.
Yeah, that's another name there. A lot of names being
Sure,
thrown
it's an
around,
option.
man. Yeah, but we won't really know much, if this is all for nothing until Wednesday. We know that Berhalter is even out. We're hoping
Dude,
so.
that'll piss me off if they come back and say, "Well, you know what? We did our due diligence. Turns out, once again, Triple G is the best option with the USMNT." I lost it, dude. I'll be as mad as you are right now.
Yeah, have to what's it called? Avoid watching games. Just
Mm-hmm.
protest. But
Every
you
single one
guys,
of them, yeah.
you guys keep it up on Twitter, keep it up on Instagram, keep the pressure going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope U.S. Soccer sees this and make some changes here as we move forward this week. Then, man, as we wrap up this episode, bro, where can listeners find us?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We post memes, latest news, and shorts of our videos.
Yeah, so make sure to follow us. Let us know in the comments below. Have you been following this Triple G saga? What are your thoughts on the whole situation? Are you team Berhalter out? Let us know in the comments below. We like interacting with you guys. And who would be your ideal coach for the U.S. Soccer? Definitely let us know in the comments. Also, if you're a fan of Liga MX is back. Our Tigres won yesterday 1-0 off a PK from El Bomboro Guignac. But we're going to be starting a new segment here on Puro Pinche Gol. We're going to be doing our Liga MX Jornada weekly recap. So if you're a fan of Liga MX, stick it here. And we'll be recording that after the conclusion of Liga MX's first week later tonight. So, Adrian, man, another good episode. I'll see you in the next one, brother.
Always a pleasure, my guy.
Likewise, man. See ya.